Hey, how's everybody doing? Time-wise, this is Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for everyone that served. I even have a little bit of basic training under my belt in Army Reserves and messing around like that. Shout out, I'm thinking about, I know my grandfather on my father's side was in the military. Um, so I think I should do some piece about blacks in the military, especially during World War II. You remember Cuba Gooding in the movie Men of Honor, I think it was, the deep sea diver and all the stuff associated with that, breaking barriers. So maybe I'm just brainstorming right now. Welcome to 365 Days Toward Racial Change. My name is Tomlins Nyback. Pleasure to be with you. I did a bunch of writing over the past few days, so I'm going to take this is Friday, the 22nd of May. I'm going to take some time to make it a studio day. I don't want to get too far ahead on my writing because there's a train of thought that goes with that. But the title of this project, Toward Racial Change, forget about the days. I was just musing on this before I turned my video camera on. And the racial change part is, remember, this goes for people of all colors, whatever allegiances we have. Remember, they are constructs. They are mental conditions. They are like community activity is racism, right? It's not something that's inherently in a white person, in a black person, in a brown person, right? We're not born feeling like a person, a different colored person is um, a challenge on the planet. We're not born with that. Those are things that come on us as we engage with the world, our family, does stuff, the community, politics, all these giant conditions in the community on the planet provide the ground for racism, right? For some reason, it's just important for me to say that, you know. And unfortunately, the racism construct has, in America, it goes along this color line of black and white, and it's caused so much pain, confusion, and it still lingers today. Some of what got has me going on about this is I don't know if it was something I just saw on TV or whatever, but you think about maybe I was just getting ready to turn the camera on, and I was just thinking how America has not moved away from its racist roots and its um, acting out and living its paradigm of racism, and how uh, this condition persists. Now, based on what I just said about it being a construct, being um, and mental entity of the communities, well, then whether it's full-blown slavery in the 1600s or whether we see this managed racism, minus the coercion, the beatings, the rape. Um, you don't have. to have mechanisms to separate families and do that because the conditions are so um, habitual within the system that black families just do it naturally. Right? A lot of stuff is automatic. Power control management is just comes on that white section of society automatic. It's habitual now. It's a machine of racism. There's an economic component there, and it's just running on automatic. And I don't know, it's like the Matrix in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be, you gotta take the red pill to to see it. You can't because it is. We are immersed in it. We can't see it and get out of it. I mean, I get pushback on some of these issues, some elements of this video series about that. Plenty of people say, oh, racism's over. Slavery's behind us. We got Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican Senate Majority Leader, saying, America's race problem is handled because we had a black president. Probably pains him to even confess that truth. Oh, Mitch. It's all right. It's all right. There's a whole lot of people hoping that reincarnation is not real. Because if we have to keep doing this thing till we get it right, and getting it right means um, we're born into the system and we have to resist um, elements of the system, even to the point of death, then some people are going to go round and round and round. All right, hey, so I did take the red pill. Introduced to some information on resources from a man named Dr. Claud Anderson. I've read a lot of his works. Red pill. Oh, his name's Dr. Claud Anderson, the Black History Reader. 101 questions you never thought to ask. We are in that text today, question number 92, AIDS in Africa and things like that. Black labor, white wealth, search for power and economic justice, and Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com here on YouTube. He's all over the internet. Easy man to get a hold of. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find Black women having their resources, support there. Check out Black Enough for kind of a Black Facebook experience. BLAGGENUF. There's a lot of sites to connect socially, stuff like that. You're not confined to Instagram, Facebook, this, that, all these big. There's plenty of stuff out there. You can find your community. If you can't find your voice, do what I did. Start your own project. It'll do something for your character. We're at day 347, and I'm taking this opportunity to get it done. Might be a autobiographical book deal, something out of this. I don't know. If you got a business mind, child, go holler at a guy named Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School, theblackbusinessschool.com for your entrepreneurial needs, tax needs. Very enthusiastic guy, Tyrone Gregory, the self-employed tax guy. You can find him on LinkedIn, but he's doing well. LinkedIn, Twitter, things like that. If you are wanting to understand money, especially in this nation, around the world, world banks, Federal Reserves, but those institutions have a very strong influence and impact on what's going on in the world. Much too complicated for me to talk about, but check out A Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin, um, and you'll get some interesting illustrations. And finally, we occasionally have story time. We're going to come back to story time, I think, in a couple episodes. Um, Uncle Tom's Cabin, we've been through the text, but um, we're just parachuting in, looking at some illustrations that impacted me as we were going through the text. All right, today, race, AIDS, Africa. Dr. Anderson has this question in a Black History Reader. How do some researchers connect race to AIDS, to the AIDS virus, and view its possible fabrication and African origin? I won't say we're beyond our AIDS problem. We've got drugs now that can make you undetectable. Magic Johnson was able to had the resources where he's undetectable now and things like that. So we want to be, it's not the epidemic in it, it's not killing us as rampantly as, say, the late 80s and 90s. Dr. Anderson's research kind of tells us that it was really starting to get grip and traction as early as 1979 in New York. We're going to talk about those dates in a moment. I had a good friend through my mission and rehab experiences. Um, you find you find your community is in here, cross section, and I'm a little contemplative, introvert, things like that. Met a friend, Anthony. He was gay, and but he could play the piano like nothing I've ever seen. He played exactly what his heart and his felt. Some lounge piano player. I mean, I've seen players, but it was the first person I had like a relationship with, like I talked to. I'm a musician, so we collaborated once in a while, things like that. He was just way above me in talent like that. He's also well with computers. And we had been circulating through this one particular mission, in and out, both of us. And I found out he was HIV positive, and he was really declining. He wasn't taking care of himself. Drugs had not. It was still drugs had not. The technology had not progressed to what it is today, I guess, with the treatments. So he managed when he felt like it. His thing was alcohol, my thing cocaine, and so he didn't really treat himself well. He had a master's in something, and just talent, talent, talent. And but then he also later succumbed to the disease. I was the last one of his friends to see him in the hospital. I gave him a hug because I know how the AIDS is transmitted. It's bodily fluids and things like that. So I gave him a hug. I got no problem sharing space with people AIDS positive. But it's just very sad, very sad. Now I'll start the top of this question. There is, I wanted to do some medical pieces in light of the coronavirus, our present uh, epidemic, pandemic, and essentially we've had a few in between: Ebola, H1N1, all these other crazy viruses in between there. This one just took the world by storm. And it's so sad. We have we've got these physical barriers now. And that's a whole nother video. But getting back to some parallels of AIDS and the coronavirus, both viruses, both illnesses. Be interesting to see the statistics on Ebola and H1N1. But the statistics, the demographics track are nearly parallel, right? Black men up top. Of course, with the coronavirus, I haven't seen the latest statistics. It uh, might be a better correlation, but with AIDS, black men, then Latino men, then white males, then women come into picture. The last stats I saw for actually 2008, as late as 2018, there's still issues with the virus going on. Um, Very sad, you know. You remember Arthur Ashe? I'm not a big tennis. Well, I'm a big tennis fan, but this is after Arthur Ashe's era. You know, he apparently had an accident or got injured in Africa, blood transfusion, didn't know the blood was tainted, and so he got stricken with the disease. So sad, so sad. You know, the AIDS research origins is applicable here, especially when you talk about medicine and those disproportionately affected by diseases and illnesses. You think about um, black men seem to be almost targeted. Like when you look at the demographics, people who have been, you know, exposed at risk or whatever, you know, boy, black men are right at the top. You know, what there's this, it's too consistent to be um, accidental. You know, I mean, a lot of things you'll hear me say often that racism is no accident, right? So you look at some things in the world and our systems and their consistency. Well, they stay consistent intentionally. You know, not of some freak accident, as though um, black men have a predisposition to some of this stuff. Well, that's not true. We're in human bodies with some extra melanin in our skin, right? But there's nothing, any differences scientists and medicine finds in the physiology between black people and people of other skin colors, it's really negligible, right? The same, I can get the same treatment for diseases. My organs are in the same space, right? Enough so that you can, uh, you know, look at a cadaver or a chart, and if you have to do some surgery, well, you know, kind of know where everything is at when you cut me open, right? Because I'm just a regular human being. You know, my heart is not on the right side. You know, the liver's not somewhere else. You know, so that's something to think about with illnesses, diseases. It's like, wow, you know, here we are again, coronavirus. You know, this assignment, attack on black men is too consistent to be a coincidence. Uh, Things like that, you know. You think about medicine, you know, we talked about the HeLa cells, oh, their extraction and how that's made billions, have created a whole new industry. These immortal cells, blacks being used in radiation exposure, experiments, syphilis, we really um, black men have to work on their awareness big time because a lot of things we're just not getting, that we're not understanding um, about moving in the system. Incarceration rates, crime in our neighborhoods, right? We could look at some intentional issues from the majority white community, but even internally, oh boy, we fall into drugs, alcohol, this crime, all of dysfunctions of society. Um, we have there are certain doctors, uh, obviously, what's not been proven yet. Although this latest coronavirus, it seems to have some intention behind it. Seems to have origins and roots, something that someday we may be able to trace. It's interesting. Um, with diseases and contagions, how do you find that patient zero or a possible lab that has that created or originated these illnesses? Because when they come out, they just explode onto the population. It's hard to trace back. It's interesting to see how now the cell phone usage is being used to track our movements and things like that. So much of what we're going through and experiencing today is almost a commentary on the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. And there's some parallels. I may say something about that before we wrap up in a couple days here. There's a Dr. Cantwell and a Dr. Strecker who actually believe there's some validity to um, the AIDS virus being genetically engineered, um, having to think that it is true. Like even right now, this moment today, there's somebody in a lab looking at how to make a deadly virus more deadly. We don't understand the term biological weapon for no reason. It's because they are real. They exist. The only problem with them is they're not controllable. You can't, there's no specificity, which goes back to physiology between people of different skin colors, right? We're all impacted the same, right? And you look at these viruses, especially HIV, AIDS, and this coronavirus, that boy, it's almost like these viruses have a mind and intention with what they do, how they're going to move. I got to admit, I've not felt overly 100%. A lot of aching with this virus, this coronavirus, it's like you don't know because sore throats and aches and pains come and go, so you don't know if you're carrying it or not. We're going to see what happens. But anyway, Dr. Cantwell, Dr. Strecker, you find them here on YouTube, have their has their commentary about the possibility of the AIDS virus being genetically engineered and things. And you can find plenty of videos of conspiracy theories and things like that. Listen to maybe what they have to say. There might be some validity to that. but it's very no, it's interesting to think that someone intentionally creates that stuff um, to put it out there. Now to the African origin debate. When I was in the heyday of AIDS, I heard rumors of the virus being found in mummies and ancient people and stuff like that. So some semblance of the virus. With the coronavirus, you hear, oh well, people, we thought it was something, oh, that erupted on the planet by mid-end of 2019. But you hear the occasional scientists say, well, we found it earlier or in other places and things like that. So it leaves its origin in dispute. What Dr. Anderson notes is that first cases of the virus were reported in New York, 1979, and Africa didn't present um, on a knowable level until 1982, right? So you got some discrepancies of, its origin, how it spread, uh, and things like that. You do find, oh, maybe lifestyle choices, socioeconomic conditions do make, apparently some communities more vulnerable than others, but no one's immune to it. Really, is the bottom line. But we can't, as far as AIDS goes, specifically um, aim its origins. Definitely not at Africa. We're not 100% sure there. If we're getting cases 3 years earlier in American shores, so something to think about. We've got possible intent of this virus um, aimed at black men. It looks like, if you look at the statistics, something to consider. Now, before I wrap up, I want to say something. This is my personal. Well, this whole series is my personal kind of thing. But I wanted to say something about these drugs and being undetectable and some of the risk that we still take with being sexually active. I'm not, the jury is still out on my mind if I'm going to be with an individual. Hopefully if there's some sexual potential there, hopefully we are transparent enough to say the risk involved. At drugs like what's it, Latuda and other instances where they say the virus is undetectable, I don't know if I'm willing to put myself at that risk. Apparently, it's popular on the college campus when they have these fairs and stuff like that. There'll always be a table. At least this year, fall and spring semester of this school year, there was tables and men and women very had a lot of passion for drugs that enable a person to be undetectable and stuff like that. But I don't know about that risk if I'm at that point. You look at, it's like when you look at Craigslist, and some people are afflicted, with different herpes viruses and things like that, at least they're transparent. They're disclosing, look, I'm positive with this illness. I only want to be with someone else who's positive with the illness. It's very important, right? So on this note of AIDS, I wouldn't want to be the one to take away a person's pleasures and liberties and things like that, but we really have to think about the level of risk involved, when something's undetectable and they say it's non-transmissible and things like that. Well, I mean, it's still there. I don't know, right? Do you want to, um, this is racial change, right? Do you want to go to a workplace, a space where it's overtly racism, right? And they've got banners and plaques on the wall against racism and how those workplaces are inclusive and open-minded and diverse and all that. But you know that certain people are harboring racist agendas in their mind and their thinking, right? Any moment racism can unleash and engage in that safe space, in that space where racism is non-detectable, and it just is not going to end well. I think I've been a victim of that. That may be my argument about the disease being undetectable, non-transmittable, yet you've not eliminated the risk entirely. I'm Tomlin's Nyback, day 347 in the can, 365 days towards racial change. Please come back again. Thanks for hanging out.